Alright, hello everybody. Well, welcome back to Overshadowed. Today I'm going to be doing a solo show because Colin is actually gone, but hopefully he'll be able to record with me again on Sunday or Monday, and if he isn't, then I guess I'll record another one of these. So, Merry late Christmas. It is also very beautiful outside right now. There has been no shortage of news, of course, even with the holiday season. So the first thing that I really want to get to is this underwater cable between Finland and Estonia. I think cut by most likely Russia. So yesterday, actually on Christmas Day, an underwater cable connecting Estonia and Finland was cut, and these type of things are increasingly becoming more and more common with the kind of new Cold War between the West and Russia. So, in I think the last month, cables connecting Finland and Germany and cables connecting Lithuania and Sweden were cut. Yeah, last month, and I really want to mention this because I think it's really important. So, Article 5 was actually changed, I think a couple months ago, and it basically states that all of these actions are cumulative. So, Article 5 used to sort of be where if Russia were to invade Alaska or something, or Russia were to launch a nuke, not a nuke per se, but like a missile into Lithuania, or send troops into Finland, there would be, of course, like everybody knows, direct military action against them. But now it's sort of like if they cut this cable and then they cut another and then they cut another, and then they like down the internet in major parts of Germany, and they also do this other stuff that isn't necessarily directly an act of war. Article 5 could still apply. So this is one a major development just for solely escalation. But it'd be interesting to see how this is actually considered by NATO as part of that cumulative um, cumulative ex cumulative, scaling up of the kind of Cold War between them and the conflict that could arise with that. So, I mean, I would say, like, it's pretty obvious, in my opinion, that this is Russia. But, I mean, like, my position on the Ukraine war, I don't think that we should give any more money to Ukraine. But, I mean, like, obviously there is definitely some fault by the Russians here. But this is just a general, like, I mean, when we gave permission for first Ukraine to strike inside of Russia, then Ukraine for Russia to strike inside deep into Russian territory, it just ends up escalating. I always say this to people that are really, really pro-Ukraine. I say, like, how would you feel if China sent missiles to Mexico to shoot across our border? And they always say, well, Mexico didn't invade the US and this is blah blah blah. Well, yeah, that's definitely true, but the Russians don't see it that way. And that's what really matters in this conflict. So it's pretty obvious that Russia's cutting all these cables because of how common it has been to see Russian tankers and ships near all of these vital cables, and Russian ships have actually begun flying under different flags to sort of hide themselves. The official statement by Finland law enforcement was that this is an act of aggravated vandalism, and really, I definitely talked about this earlier, but I just think this is generally a place where Russia, again, with sort of the reason why I think that the Ukraine war exists, I think that this action happened, and I think the Ukraine war exists kind of just to tell NATO, to tell the West, like, GTFO, like, get out of this area, stop expanding eastward. And that was one of the original things proposed by Western leaders. It was, look, we don't have to expand NATO eastward, and we don't have to do all this. We can accept Russia into the Western powers. And of course, we don't know what would happen if we did really do that. And I mean, a person that was really pro Ukraine aid would probably say to some of my arguments, like about shooting into Russia, that if they don't do that, Russia can kind of just like put a bunch of stuff at their border and then invade them and just kind of do whatever they want. And I would probably respond to that by saying that I don't think that the conflict should have existed in the first place, because NATO should have stopped expanding eastward, and also that Ukraine would be able to strike past that border if it was able to defend itself with its own weapons. And many of the weapons that it originally did use to strike into Russia, like striking Moscow with, was their own drones. And I mean, if Ukraine wants to escalate their war with Russia to a point where they get attacked more and Russia isn't getting aggravated at Western leaders, honestly, I think whatever. But it's pretty obvious that it's Russia, and also I would say hopefully Trump keeps his word. Hopefully he completely defunds Ukraine. J.D. Vance did say a lot of really good stuff about defunding Ukraine, in my opinion, which was one of the reasons that I did consider supporting Trump. I mean, I was sort of an undecided voter for a while. I did decide to support Kamala Harris, but if I were to support Donald Trump, it would be mainly for one of those reasons, like all of that rhetoric that Tulsi Gabbard was talking about, getting the United States out of endless wars, and I don't know if he'll do that. Hopefully he will. So the next thing that we have to talk about is, I have a lot to say about this. The death row pardons that Biden issued. So, he issued everybody on death row except for 3 people. And I'm pretty sure that there was like 37 people that were like somewhere in that ballpark. I don't have it written in my notes here, but I looked into this. I was reading this New York Times article, and I looked into the list that they compiled of the people that were actually pardoned, and some of this is crazy. Akila Marcy Vichy Barnett was sentenced to death in 1998. Billy Jerome Allen and Norris G. Holder were both sentenced in 1998 as well. Anthony George Battle was sentenced in 1997. Julius Omar Robinson was sentenced in 2002. Richard Allen Jackson was sentenced to death in 2001. So all of these people have been in death row for, at the longest period of time, 27 years. That is absolutely insane. I don't personally support the death penalty, but if you do support the death penalty, you should actually use it. This is outrageous. Obviously a lot of these people did murder people. I think that most of the people that were on death row, most of them are just murderers, as in murdering single people. I'm pretty sure that there's one man who kidnapped a 12-year-old. So, I won't defend the death penalty. I don't like the death penalty, and on this I would say, I would really be interested as to the real motive behind Biden pardoning all these people, because he obviously states that he's a Catholic, that he doesn't support the death penalty. He called the Pope earlier before this decision, and apparently the Pope was really supporting this decision. But I would really be interested as to why he didn't just do this all earlier in a bigger, wider blanket of pardons, because we all know how this went down. It was Hunter Biden, and then it was 2,000 people who were basically in jail for having gay sex while they were in the military and smoking weed. There was that one guy, that really corrupt judge. I don't remember if the section that I talked about this in was, I think that was the one where our recording broke. But I said that I basically blanket endorsed most of these pardons, basically all of them. And I would say now, there are some people, of course, like the people who had gay sex in the military. Obviously, they shouldn't be in jail for that. But the people, there was that judge. I think it's the Kids for Cash controversy. Like this horrible, horrible, horrible person. I did not know that that person was one of the people who was pardoned by Biden. So obviously, I definitely wouldn't support that. But for this death row thing, I mean, they're just, I do support it because they're just getting life in prison. Obviously, I wouldn't support them just like getting blanket pardoned. But the three people who remain on death row are how do I pronounce this? Dzhokhar Tsarnaev. My AI reader bot pronounced that really well, but I kind of can't. He was one of the two brothers involved in the Boston Marathon bombing, and Dylan Roof, who was a church shooter and he killed 9. And Robert D. Bowers, who shot up a synagogue and killed 11 Jewish people. So obviously the people pardoned weren't the most egregious offenders on death row, which obviously is a good thing. But I would really take from this story, I mean, how much does it realistically matter to America that these people are getting pardoned? In the way that they are, not really at all, because they're just going to life in prison. I mean, me talking about Anthony George Battle, this guy sentenced in 1977. He basically got sentenced to life in prison, just shortened, I guess. I can't believe how you can literally be sentenced to prison in a different millennia. Be sentenced to death in a different millennia. 27 years later, you're sentenced to your actual, the verdict hasn't been carried out. I mean, I'm pretty sure no executions have occurred under Joe Biden, but that's just outrageous, I think. But I would really think, is Joe Biden's legacy really going to be affected by this? And that's really what I'm thinking about a lot in regard to these pardons. Because, like I said last show, on last Monday, in my opinion, Joe Biden will be defined by, 1, the genocide in Gaza, and 2, how old he was and how he basically led Kamala Harris to lose her bid for the presidency, and how he gave power to the Republicans in the Senate, in the House, in the presidency, and right now, in the Supreme Court. So just basically a blanket power to do a lot of stuff that Biden definitely wouldn't want to be done, that he's fought against for so much of his life. So I think his legacy definitely might be defined by this. And I think that there's kind of 2 camps of thought, maybe 2 or 3, when it comes to think about why he did this. I mean, 1, it's just that he doesn't believe in the death penalty, because that's the reason that he gave. That is the reason that he wants the public to believe. And then the other one is, I mean, he did pardon Hunter Biden first. That was the first person that he pardoned. So was it just because Democrats are pressuring him, or just because he didn't want to go down as the president that didn't just pardon his son? I don't really care that he pardoned his son. The thing that I really care about is the fact that he was the first person that he pardoned, and the fact that no other pardons came out that day. I mean, I'm kind of in the second group. I think that Biden honestly did these, and the 2000 beforehand. His brain, his brain might just be too cooked to really comprehend what he's doing, and people just might honestly be giving him a list of who he should pardon, and he'll just sign off of it. I don't really know how the Oval Office dynamics are right now, but I definitely think that it could be because he did pardon Hunter Biden, and he doesn't want to go down as just a guy who pardoned his son, committed to genocide, and was really old. So I don't know. It's really interesting. This was one of the last acts in Joe Biden's term. Very, very interesting development in my opinion. So our next story is the Matt Gaetz ethics report being released. So obviously Matt Gaetz did leave the House a day before the report on him was about to release in order to basically avoid it releasing. So the report details that Gaetz regularly paid for sex, that he had sex with a minor, and that he used illegal drugs such as cocaine and ecstasy regularly. And he has, of course, denied all of this. Right now, if you go to Matt Gaetz' Twitter account, it's basically just a sea of, oh, this is not credible, this is not correct, this is not right. He is just going to war with all of these accusations. It's really, I implore anybody who happens to be watching this to actually look at his Twitter right now, because if you wanted to make an argument that none of these cases are founded, you probably could if you just look at his Twitter account for long enough. But the report does state, though, that he did not violate federal laws on sex trafficking. And according to the report, although Representative Gaetz did cause the transportation of women across state lines for purposes of commercial sex, the committee did not find evidence that any of those women were under 18 at the time of travel, nor did the committee find sufficient evidence to conclude that the commercial sex acts were induced by force, fraud, or coercion. So, I mean, I think, there is definitely something to say. The House... there isn't a case against him right now in courts, and that's definitely an argument to be made. If you wanted to straight dismiss this entire thing, you certainly could, 100%, because that's pretty damning in my opinion. But also, he fought tooth and nail for this report not to be released. And there is definitely something to say there. He basically ousted Kevin McCarthy back in 2023 for the sole reason being that this ethics report was going to come out, and he didn't want it to come out. He went with the Democrats on that, and that's crazy. I mean, if these allegations are so unfounded and have such little basis in reality, you probably shouldn't be attacking them so virulently. And there's something to say there too. Definitely. So, I mean, what do I really think about this? I really want to wait for more stuff to come out. He was definitely a degenerate. I mean, obviously many people in the House are degenerates. So it's kind of weird, in my opinion, how Matt Gaetz has been attacked so... everybody in the House hates this guy. Everybody in the House hates Matt Gaetz. And yet, so many of the people in the House have been, it's come out that there's been, orgies with people in the House all the time, so it's just, why is he so hated? Maybe just because he was, an a-hole. Apparently everybody in the House hated him, not only for how much of a degenerate he was, but also just because of, how hard of a person he was to work with, and also, he did oust Kevin McCarthy because of that, so a lot of the Republicans, because I remember when Kevin McCarthy got ousted, nothing got done in the House for, how long? 2 weeks? It was an absolute nightmare when he got kicked out of the House. I mean, it was historic. Nothing could get done in the government. Absolutely nothing could get done in the government. So there is something to be said there. And I definitely think that he's a degenerate. It seems like from this report, at least, that he's not a child rapist. That's a W for him. I think definitely to have some of that off your shoulders, but it's definitely a crazy situation, and I'd be really interested to see. I'm really interested to see how this is gonna play out in the future. So our next topic is the Germany Christmas market attack, which occurred, I think, after the filming of our last episode on Monday. So the suspect right now is Talib Abdul Mohsen. And he's a 50-year-old doctor from Saudi Arabia, and he's accused of driving an SUV into a Christmas market full of people, which killed 5. So his online activity was actually so alarming that the German government was alerted of it by the Saudi government. And he was basically a really reclusive internet dweller guy, sort of honestly, not to sound dumb, but sort of like a Reddit mod, honestly. This guy was just, apparently, according to his neighbors, he was just always inside looking at the internet. But He moved to the country in 2006 and is very, very critical of one, the German government, but two, very interestingly, actually radical Islam. So I found this guy's Twitter account, and some of the stuff that he posts, he's from a Muslim country, and some of the stuff that he posts against Islam is insane. I looked through the people that he's following, and a lot of them are very, very anti-Islamist people, saying that Islam is going to take over Europe, saying that Canada is being like all these stuff against immigration from the Middle East. And he's retweeted posts claiming that Islam wants global domination, exclamation point, like 4 exclamation points. So this guy was, one, very critical of the German government, and most of his posts, or the stuff that he shared, was in Arabic, so I didn't want to just like put it through Google Translate and get a bad translation. But from the stuff that he did retweet that was in English, most of it was very critical of Islam. And the reason that he was critical of the German government was because of their openness to Islam and how much they've like, not to say that I agree with that, just to like say what he was retweeting. The reason that was the reason why he was critical of the German government. So like I said, he was not a Muslim despite being from a Muslim country, and he supported organizations helping people in the same situation. So this is obviously, in my opinion, just a case of a guy, like, this guy's a doctor. I think that he worked with people who had a drug addiction, and he helped to like help them with their mental health and the consequences of like stopping drugs, and I forget how the word for that is, but withdrawals. So this guy had like an amazing career, and he basically like sacrificed a ton and he just like got radicalized by all these people online and became this crazy guy on the internet against Islam. It's insanely interesting how he's from a Muslim country and how he was still doing this. So the attack did kill 5 people, including I think it was a 9-year-old, but really not the, like, a really interesting case study. You can search up his name online. You can search up his Twitter account online right now. Just search up German Christmas market killer and then search up X account, or I should be saying X now because I have to be an Elon Glazer. But really, really interesting developments. But that's all that I really have today. Hopefully Colin is back Sunday and Monday. And if he is, of course, like I said earlier, I'll be doing another show with him. But if he isn't, we will have another solo show. So thank you for watching and have a good day.